to the states. Now, our next panel is very exciting. State legislators don't just join ALEC because they are elected. We are a voluntary organization, a nonpartisan organization, and that's because we want to attract state leaders that have a drive and a vision to make real positive change in their states. As an organization designed to provide continual learning, lifelong learning, as Frank Luntz would say, and improvement opportunities for our members and friends, many continue on their life in public service after their term as a state legislator or local decision maker comes to an end. The reason is simple. ALEC members have the know-how to make an impact wherever they go. And in 2020, believe it or not, 14 ALEC alumni were elected to U.S. Congress. I have been saying 9, but it's actually 14 when we went back and looked. And in a show during our centennial anniversary year of the 19th Amendment, record numbers of women were elected to that office as well. I am always pleased to see such principled women who share the same values and love of freedom as myself and our ALEC family, continue on to positions where they can do great amount of good. Especially though, I am really ecstatic to see so many ALEC alumni elected because it proves that these principled leaders bring the exact type of free market solutions to American people and are ready to get the job done. Now, I'm honored to welcome to the screen 2 powerhouse women for a panel discussion on what to expect from our ALEC alumni in 2021. Please welcome Representative-elect Victoria Spartz, who's actually here with me in the studio, and 2020 ALEC and ACE Iron Lady Award recipient, Representative-elect Yvette Harrell from New Mexico.
Hello.
Thank you, Lisa.
For having us.
It's great to see you both, and it was sure fun to see you in person earlier this week. I know both of you were in DC for the orientation and continued preparation for your new roles. We're just really thrilled to have you both. With 20 state lawmakers elected to Congress in 2020 so far, can you speak to the importance of gaining experience on the state and local level before running for Congress? And Victoria, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm happy to join a lot of my former, fellow legislators, because I always believe in the power of the states, and I believe most solutions, if the federal government provide the right tools and sometimes just stay out of the way of the states and be helpful, actually will be done at the states. And having that experience being a state legislator, I think we bring a lot of value to our discussion, because there are a lot of challenging problems and they're not going to be solved by the federal government. And as most of you believe that, centralization of power is actually pretty bad. And I was a huge fan of Hayek. I always believed in that. And I grew up in the country with a strong, centralized government. And I understand the importance of states to solve a lot of problems important for our constituency.
Yeah, it is so important. And Yvette, I'd love you to chime in, because you've always worked on federalism and states' rights on this.
Yes, and thank you for inviting us to join you today, Lisa. It really, I don't know if I can really explain to the members that are in office now and maybe have their eye on moving up to another office, but just being engaged with ALEC and understanding the resources that were available. And I was really blessed. I got to chair the International Trades and Federalism Committee. So to be able to take those ideas back to New Mexico, and it was difficult because of the makeup of our legislature, but understanding how important federalism, free markets are to not only New Mexico, but obviously the nation, that experience and those values that we talked about, the principles, like you just mentioned, free markets, and what Frank said, these are lasting relationships where you have opportunity to visit, bounce things off of one another, but to bring the experience on federalism and the importance of what's vital to our nation right now. I can't put a price tag on that. It's valuable experience and knowledge that we were able to gain, and it makes us better for the Congress.
I want to get granular on this a little bit more, because at ALEC we have our task forces, and Yvette Harrell talked about her international relations and federalism task force work. And I kind of look at them, our task forces at ALEC, like the committee structure that you have in Congress or that you may have at your state capitals. Tell me a little bit more about your participation on the task forces and how that prepared you as you look to see what committees you might be sitting on in Congress. I know you've been giving that a lot of thought this week.
Well, I think, it's important. Committees are important, also important issues are important. And, I'm actually going to be on the policy committee, and it gives me opportunity to work on some major policies that are important for Republicans, like healthcare policies. But what I really enjoy being a part and working with other states, because there is a lot of innovation happening, but sharing best practices, sharing these ideas and seeing how they've been implemented and seeing how we can do better, it's actually very useful, because a lot of these challenging issues that we're dealing in the society, they're not going to be solved by one level of government. It's going to be collaboration of federal, state, local governments, businesses, and nonprofit organizations. And I think the better we can engage in doing that collaboration, the better off we're going to be. But I'm always, I'm from Indiana, and we do a lot of great things, and always held my state to a high standard. But when I go into other legislators, I always had the opportunity to say, you see, the other state is doing something else better. So it's kind of, it's good. We're a little bit in a productive way compete with each other. It makes us better. But bringing that experiences and working now on some of the challenging issues at the federal level, it allows us to understand what can be done, what cannot be done in the state level, and to make sure that we don't create perverse incentives for the states also as a federal government, because in a lot of this issue, like healthcare and welfare, that's what we do. We create a lot of perverse incentives, and they always drive wrong results.
Yeah, it's so important. That perspective of different states really turns out to be a secret sauce for us at ALEC in terms of the sharing and the convening. Yvette, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would echo what Victoria says. And then another dynamic is what was really exciting when I was a part of ALEC, and it still is true today. The Western states have unique challenges that are not found in the Western or the Eastern states, such as the public lands management, the water rights, private property rights, things of that nature. So working on the Federalism Committee was really a great way to work and interact not only with other state legislators, but over the course of the years, several members of Congress. And what has been very exciting and will really be interesting as we move into the 117 is to know that we've got partners, that we have people that have gone through ALEC, have been on the committees, who understand the ability to work together in terms of the private and the public side of things. And it makes a great, like you said, secret sauce for good policy and good ideas, good innovation. And it's just such a balanced atmosphere at ALEC, because there is opportunity to get engaged in criminal reform or federalism, small business, these things that are vital to the growth of the American economy. So again, just being a part of it and knowing that so many of our colleagues served at one time or another, either on the state level or were members of ALEC, I believe just strengthens us as a group when we move into DC next year.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with you for a second, Yvette, and share with the audience that earlier this week we had our new legislator academy. So that is, you guys might be new legislators in Congress, but there were a lot of newly elected state legislators also elected on election day. We had 27 newly elected legislators come and spend a couple of days working through advice and counsel and these exact kind of conversations. And we had a session with Speaker Uppmeyer and Speaker Gunn around what advice you would give to somebody. And I guess I would ask you, for an incoming new state or local elected official, state legislator, or even a city council or county exec, what advice would you give to them now that you have kind of run the gamut through soup to nuts up to the congressional level?
Hands down, I would tell any of them coming into office for the first time, the best first decision they can make is to join ALEC, because it is a lifelong opportunity. Well, I'm telling you, this is not an infomercial, but I learned so much. But what I really appreciated was that family feeling. And there were so many times that I was able to work with ALEC staff on whether it was a op-ed preparation for bills that were coming before our House of Representatives. But what is so key is the understanding that you are truly working with like-minded individuals. And in New Mexico, it was a little tough in the early days because we were in the minority, and I felt that I was one of the only people, on the planet that had this love for nation and federalism and free markets. And then I learned that, oh my gosh, there's people all over the country that share those same values. And it is truly a network of strength. And like Victoria said earlier, now you're working with people from other areas of the nation that can come together, and private sector, who we can develop then good legislative ideas, change policies that benefit not only private sector, but help nonprofits and public sector. But it is the best first decision they will make. And that was for me the sad part about leaving the state office is having to leave my participation in ALEC. But you've not gotten rid of me, because I'll be there anytime, and I will be always one of your voices for joining the family, joining the organization.
Well, we really appreciate that. And last night, I don't know if you guys are aware, but last night we had our ALEC Jefferson Awards reception, and actually Congressman Bishop, who's retiring from Utah, who I know, Yvette, you know very well, Rob Bishop is retiring. We gave him one of our big awards last night for all the work that he did in pushing federalism. Victoria, I'll pivot to you. Any advice you have for state elected officials?
Well, I would just suggest, similar what Yvette said, just really try to network and go to as many events as possible that ALEC offers, because that's how you become smart. You just get around smart people, and then you come back home and you sound like you really know what you're talking about. But it's an opportunity, because there are so many great people, so many great ideas you can explore, and there are so many things you can collaborate with other states, and then you can see if you're successful, you can replicate it and give these best practices to some states. So I think it's important to do that, because all ingenuities, all innovations happens on the ground. And the more you're around people, the more you go to these events, the more you're going to learn, and you'll be very productive member of your state, and will help your state to be a strong state, because we're a country of strong states, so it's important for us. And the state legislator, I'm so happy to have so many other state legislators, and I understand the importance of the policies of the states. I understand the importance of freedom for the states and the ability to work with the states, because any issues that we discuss right now will be resolved at the state level. We just have to work well with the states. So I look forward to working with a lot of freshmen. We have a strong freshman class, a lot of strong women went through tough races. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, it was tough indeed. And I know you guys all prevailed. I think all three of us are optimistic people. I'm absolutely a glass half full. I'm actually a glass almost full, 90% full person. Even if it's empty, I see a full glass. And I would say that as I look to 2021 and some of our objectives, I've been trying to find ways to work across the aisle, to be more nonpartisan, bipartisan. We are a nonpartisan organization at ALEC. So we want more Democrats to come into the fold. I would ask you, as people like me who really want to have that dialogue, what are going to be your strategies to potentially work across the aisle and find common ground with some of your colleagues? I'll start with you, Yvette.
Yeah, that's great. And we're going to have to. Plain and simple, there are so many more issues that we have commonalities in than not. And the issues for, say, New Mexico would be our oil and gas, our ag operations, things that are important to our nation, not only in the terms of energy, but also food. And it's important that we're having the conversations across the aisle. And I am very blessed that in the state legislature, because we were in the minority to all of the years I served, except for one term, we had no choice but to sit down and have meaningful conversations so that we could educate one another and help understand why the bill was important or not important to my colleagues across the aisle. And if we're not having a meaningful conversation, then we're going to be in a stalemate. And I believe the American people right now understand what's at stake in our nation. They put us into office for a reason, and I think we have a responsibility to work on behalf of all of the people that put us into office and all of those that didn't maybe vote for us. But the responsibility is to our nation. And to me, being a part of ALEC and having the continued relationships, it's the cornerstone for democracy for me. And this is where we, like Victoria said, we learn. We have people around us that can help us navigate these ideas and infuse new ideas and resolutions into bills that may or may not work, but we can work on them together to bring a package to the American people that they can be proud of. And I think the experience we gain, not only through policy, but through networking and just ideas and understanding, having an open mind, is going to be beneficial. But we will have no choice but to roll up our sleeves and work together in the next 2 years to ensure that we're putting the American people first. And that's why we all got elected into office.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's why you got elected. I'm so glad you did. Victoria, what about you? What advice would you give?
Well, I was just always say that, I got elected to represent not the party, not the government, but the people. Mm-hmm. So when you represent the people, you represent 100% of the people. But it's interesting, even during our freshman orientation, I got to know some of my Democrat colleagues, and we're going to have some coffee, and you have to get to know people. And I think on the personal level, we might not agree on every issue, but on narrow scope of issues, we can agree, and we need to move the needle. We did major healthcare reform in Indiana, and all our Democrats colleagues supported it because it was good for the people. I came to the committee and I said, let's not do politics that benefit people. You represent and I represent, and I got unanimous vote in the committee. And I think it's important to have these personal relationships and get to know people, because people expect us to get things done and move the needle. So I think that will be very helpful. And I think looking at our delegation and our conference and a lot of new people coming with a good, positive energy, I think we'll get things done.
That's fantastic. Yeah. All right, it's Friday afternoon. Go ahead, Yvette.
I was going to say, Victoria and I are on the same page. Our goal is to get the approval rating of Congress up from 9%. So we build on those personal relationships, put the people first. I think we can move the needle up like she speaks.
Oh, absolutely. What a great goal.
And it's a pretty low stare right now, so it seems like
there's no place to go but up, right?
That's right, better.
We're gonna lighten it up. It is Friday afternoon after all. I want to know, what was your, not to put you on the spot, but what was your favorite moment from the campaign trail out in New Mexico, Yvette?
Gosh, there were really so many. I'm so lucky I had such a great team. I think the favorite moment I had was really understanding that everybody was believing in my mission to win the seat. And I knew they were standing with me. But to get the endorsement of President Donald J. Trump was probably one of the most favorite moments and most memorable. And it just made me want to work harder when I realized, everybody's standing with us. This is important. This is for one nation under God. And there were so many great memories. I should write a book, but just having the belief of others, it just fueled the flame within, a little fire in the belly, and you wanted to work harder. And so I couldn't have been more honored to know how important this race was, but to know how many important people, and I'm talking voters and industry leaders, everybody started putting their faith in me and believed in me as I believed in myself.
Oh, I love that story. How about you, Victoria? Was there a special moment on the campaign trail?
Well, I wouldn't say that's favorite, but the thing what really when I went on the election day, and I represent, this district represents 8 counties, and I went around the district, I was so, it's actually wrong that we had people standing in line for 7-8 hours. I think we have to fix it. It's unacceptable. But people were so determined. People were so eager, and how much they understand their vote, how important their vote was. We have in some areas, it's 7.5 to 8 hours wait. Some people were standing to midnight most of the day, but people said, and I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to find maybe some chairs. You cannot do that, right? But I'm like, how can, and I came and I said, like, we need your vote. I need you to be here. And people say, oh yeah, no doubt. We're going to be here. We will be standing in these lines. I think that was the dedication, determination of American people to our freedoms, to make sure that we keep these freedoms for future generations, that we protect protect our life, liberty, and property, and make sure we have these freedoms that make us the greatest country in the world. I think it was so energizing and inspiring for me. And after brutal and hard campaigns we went through, a lot of us did, just to see that we do it for the people and how important it is for them. That was very energizing and inspiring for me. So I believe we have our best days to come, and we'll have a lot of good things done. So that was
I love that, Victoria. It's so important. And, we see lines and things like that in other countries. And we see other people, kind of expressing their right to vote. And I was really heartened that the turnout was as high as it was on both sides of the aisle, on all sides of the aisle, that everybody understood that this was a time to exercise their right for free speech and their exercise to be a part of democracy. So I love that. All right, my last question for you guys, and this is just kind of another fun one, is if you could put a picture on the billboard of Times Square of anything for the world to see, what would it be? It could be a quote, a picture, anything. Victoria, I'll start with you.
Picture, that is an interesting question. What would be the picture? I probably, as someone who grew up in the country, where I didn't have freedoms, and someone who put enormous value to our freedoms. So, what our countries provide and what is the country of the American dream, I get very patriotic. So I probably, if talking about New York, I would probably have Statue of Liberty and remember, what is our country about. And, I think that is very important. And I think that's what we are about. We're the greatest republic that ever existed. We're the greatest country for the greatest opportunity. There is no difference between people around the world, but we provide the most freedoms for people to pursue happiness in whichever way they want. So I would like always to remember that we have to cherish and love our country. And that's probably would be in my mind since you brought up New York.
Yep, I love it. I love that. That is so important. I just finished watching The Crown last night, and I'm so devastated that Margaret Thatcher is no longer the Prime Minister in England. Obviously, I knew that. But as our Iron Lady recipient from last year, Yvette, what would be your billboard?
It would say it's about faith, not about fear. And I would hope that would just resonate in the hearts and minds of people to understand who's really in charge of our nation. But there are so many great things. I mean, on a side note, I can't say my dog or my mom or my dad because they each got to be in commercials. And so there's this, thing going on in my family. My mom got a speaking role. So I'm going to I got to stay away from the family and the dog thing on this, but I really would. I'd say it's faith over fear.
I love that. I love that. All right. One last chance. Anything else you want to say to our legislators out there in the audience? I know you've got to catch a plane, Victoria, but we're so happy to have you and congratulations. Any last words?
Well, since you brought up Margaret Thatcher, and some people in my state Senate called me Margaret Thatcher, so as the Iron Lady is her. So I actually would bring up her quote. She said, Europe was created by history. America was created by philosophy. And I would just add by philosophy of freedom. And I think it's always important for us to remember that. And I'm so happy to see there are a lot of new members and people at the state level that fighting for freedoms. It's always a fight to protect people's freedoms. And it's very good to see what's happening right now in the states and on the ground. And I look forward to working with a lot of good legislators. And I want to thank everything what ALEC does for help and empower legislators to be strong legislators to protect our rights. So I think it's very important. So I appreciate what all you do.
Thank you so much and congratulations again. Yvette, any last words?
I would say, again, this is the best first decision that they will make. The ALEC family is always open for everyone, and I will make myself personally available from the Hill so that I can help navigate whatever they're going through or whatever I can help with in terms of experience or legislation. But it is the most exciting organization to be a part of. They're always growing, innovating, and the opportunities for personal growth, for professional growth, and for growth in the line of service that you're in, whether it's on the state, county, or federal level. It's such an opportunity, and you would never be disappointed.
Well, thank you very much. I think that's a wrap for our congressional panel. And just remember that we are here as a resource for all of the elected officials, from the city council to the county executive to the state legislators, and now all the way to Congress. I think with this class of 14, we're upwards of around 60 or 70 members of Congress who have been former ALEC legislators, governors, and U.S. senators. So thank you very much, and congratulations again on your hard-fought victory.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Best.